You literally can't make this stuff up. A discount code for a human being. That is insane. Ridiculous. $200 off to adopt a human, and also she gets a little bit of commission from this? What? Minnie, no, come here. Don't leave. We just started. I'm not going to be able to convince her to stay. I don't have Mickey here today. I have Minnie. Yes, my cat's names are named after mouses. Yeah, Minnie and Mickey. Yes. She's going to leave us. Okay, I love you. Bye, I guess. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel where I dive deep into influencer culture to reveal all the lies, with my goal being to help you guys decide where to spend your ever valuable new age currency. Today we're digging into Adelaide White, a new mommy influencer to this channel, who claimed her rise to fame by grifting on infertility, miscarriage, and also now on adoption. Today we're going to take a critical look into her platform, discuss the ethics behind her adoption story, and also some of the various controversies that people have noted over her time as an influencer and the misinformation that she spreads. And I hope to give you all of the information, as I said, so that you can decide where to spend your social media currency. We've got a decent amount to discuss, so let's go, guys. So first things first, who are the Whites? Well, Adelaide is a social media mommy influencer now who has about 500K across platform, with her most active platforms being TikTok and Instagram. On April 18th, 2020, her and her husband, Steven, decided to get married, just the two of them, canceling their big wedding because of COVID, because, and in her own words here, they wanted to start a family.
One of the main reasons we did decide to get married, just the two of us 3 years ago, was because we are very traditional and we wanted to start growing our family.
3 months after getting married, they would go through their first and only pregnancy/miscarriage, and 6 years later are still struggling with fertility issues.
3 years ago, I thought the worst and hardest thing that's ever happened to us is having to cancel our wedding. Little did we know, 3 months later, we'd go through a miscarriage, and 3 years later, we would still be struggling to conceive and not even have a baby yet. It's just so wild to me to think back to those days and the innocence. Ugh.
Right up front, I will fully acknowledge that must have been an absolutely horrific and continue to be a horrific thing to go through. Having gone through a miscarriage myself, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Genuinely. We're going to talk more about the miscarriage and infertility stuff in a little bit, because there's a lot of holes in her story that need to be clarified. But like I said, she claims her fame by completely grifting on infertility and miscarriage. And that's a topic that has garnered a lot of attention in the social media influencer realm over the last couple of years, because it's a very isolating thing to go through, or it can be very isolating to go through. And a sense of community is easy to build around that, because people just want to hear stories. They want that solidarity. Her first TikTok is, and oldest TikTok available at least, is this one, which has 2.1 million views. Which, if it actually is her first video and it went viral, no doubt she would hop on that grift train, obviously. But the problem is when it goes from sharing your experience to your experience, I find that that's where boundaries need to start to be drawn, especially in influencer culture, because really quickly it ends up being this type of performative vulnerability. We've seen it time and time again with Michaela Niguera, for example, and it's especially prevalent on TikTok. Why? Because it's this new aged marketing tactic where influencers have this performative vulnerability to connect with their audience in order to be able to sell things to their audience as their friends or their besties, because you are much more likely to purchase something from someone you trust, even though it's fake trust, and who you consider yourself to be closer with, have a closer or deeper connection with. But by peppering in these highly emotional moments through like the funny content and stuff like that, influencers are able to foster that sense of community and really build up that parasocial bond. But never forget what Michaela Niguera said to us. All of it is a lie.
I'm telling you firsthand right now that as someone who is a larger influencer, Everything you see online is fake. Everything. When you're an influencer, you are not present. You are planning your every move. You're planning, what is the next clip? What is the next clip? What is my next video? What am I doing? What is the content? Everything you do is content. You may stat out with the best intentions, which obviously I did. But when you start seeing the views and the numbers and you become obsessed. I'm just saying, every influencer understands this.
And in this case, I think we should believe her. And the thing I noticed really quickly while looking into Adelaide and her platform is she didn't just grift on this topic. She full-blown clout goblined away. She gobbled up all of that clout. She rode every single trend in this niche topic harder than a cowboy rides a freaking bull, guys. I'm talking multiple of the exact same video. When I went and took a look at her most popular videos, in the top 5, 3 of them were the same. When you take a pregnancy test and your period arrives at that exact moment, 3 times she went viral for that exact same thing. And another example of this is meeting her little baby boy for the first time. It's her top viral video. I think it's got like 17 million views or something. And she's like pretending to rock a baby. And then at the end, she's rocking a baby. She did that like 3 or 4 more times, all from differing lengths and stuff like that. And I think that these viral moments are a big reason as to why she has the number of followers that she has. Because it creates this kind of mob mentality of like, oh, look how many people like that. I'm gonna like it too. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, that was relatable. And anyone who went through infertility or a miscarriage or anything like that knows that a lot of the times the 2-week wait, for example, is a relatable thing that a lot of women struggle with. So it's something that you can make light of because it's jokes and stuff like that. And as someone who has experienced some infertility issues and the miscarriage, I understand. I've been there. I've been on the 2-week wait and, testing and testing and testing again. I've had those disappointments. I've experienced all of this. But the problem is when it goes from sharing anecdotal experiences to selling us products, or when it goes from sharing experiences to then providing education or tips and tricks while simultaneously having no education in this particular subject. And that can lead quickly to the spread of misinformation, which is something that we see a lot on Adelaide's platform, and we'll get into those here shortly, because that's when things go from like this funny entertainment to potentially downright dangerous for people. That's a little bit of a backstory about how she claims her fame, how she built her platform. Now we're getting into some of the more nitty-gritty stuff. And one thing that brought her a lot of attention was her miscarriage story and being relatable surrounding that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and speculate whether or not she had a miscarriage. There is a post on her subreddit that you can go. They break down timelines and posts and things she said and contradictions and how her story's changing, and you can decide for yourself if you believe her or not. What I think happened is she likely had a chemical pregnancy and happened to catch it before it aborted itself. So what is a chemical pregnancy? It's a pregnancy loss that happens often before the 5th week. Testing positive on a pregnancy test only to get a negative result a few weeks later can signal a chemical pregnancy. Some people aren't even aware that they had a chemical pregnancy. Most people who experience them go on to have healthy pregnancies. So there's chemical pregnancies, and there's also just early term losses, spontaneous abortions. And those are very, 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 very common. A miscarriage before 12 weeks. And essentially what it oftentimes is, especially when you're at that 6-week and before mark, is it's an embryo that was never compatible with life. That's how my doctor explained it to me, to kind of help with the mental strain of it all and like feeling more so like my body wasn't a complete failure, But it's just an embryo that was not compatible with life, and your body dealt with it. And this is true oftentimes for those early term losses before 12 weeks. So like I said, I'm not going to sit here and speculate whether or not it happened. I think it probably did happen. She probably ended up catching it beforehand, taking that test, and then just like it was the day of her period and it just washed itself out. But I do think that she took it as an opportunity to grift on, especially if those videos did hit the algorithm. We've seen it before with Kylie Gomez, who had her loss and grifts on it to this day, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I've yeeted myself out of that community completely, so I don't know if she's still grifting on it, but I'm sure she still brings it up, and her grandma, because that's all they have. It's a type of sad fishing, right? It plays on people's empathy. The sad videos and the rage bait videos are some of the most successful videos on social media because it plays to people's emotions, to their empathy, their sympathy. And also, like I said in the beginning, miscarriage can be a very lonely and isolating experience. So having an influencer talk about it and that sense of community can be really valuable for some people who have gone through it. Now, I do think this can be done right, and I have seen it done right. One of my favorite influencers, Rach Loves Content Creators, she shared her experience with a loss. One video, that was it, shared with her audience because she took some time off. And I think that that's mostly okay, right? It's something you went through. There's no sense in hiding it. Here's what I went through. Now let's move on, right? Let's continue doing what we do best. But I think we need to acknowledge that it's one thing to share the story and it's another thing to exploit it for views, because that's what's getting you attention on social media. And that repeatedly bringing it up and repeatedly making content out of it isn't necessarily the healthiest way to cope with a loss and also heal from it. And it's also worth noting that all these years later, she still has never gotten another positive test. And rather than seek any type of medical intervention that's backed by science, she did all of these alternative methods and theories and stuff, like going to see a doctor in Greece and getting her uterus flushed with antibiotics and blue light therapy and red light therapy and all these things, rather than going the more traditional route of IVF or IUI.
Intrauterine antibiotic washes are supposed to take care of that. We'll hear back about our reproductive immunology results hopefully on Thursday, and then we'll proceed with that. So tomorrow I have 2 more antibiotic washes, and Thursday I believe I have 2 more. So everything looks so good. The doctors that we've seen have just been very optimistic, and they're like, I think you're going to be able to get pregnant. Like, I'm not saying that you should have more delays. Everything's looking really good, so staying hopeful. But it almost like brought tears to my eyes to hear that today, because it's exciting to hear.
In that clip about the uterine flush with the antibiotics, she was reassured back in 2023 that this was definitely the route to go, that she was definitely going to get a baby out of this, that IUI and IVF wouldn't work for her anyway.
Washes, they both were just so positive and so optimistic. And we did ask, like, do you think IUI would help us? Do you think IVF would give us a better chance? And they both were like, no. Like, I think we took care of what needed to be taken care of. Like, there's nothing that's making you need to do IUI or IVF. Like, everything seems to be in line. We took care of what we needed to take care of. And that's like a huge thing with your microbiome. Like, making sure you get that in check is so important if you're doing transfers with IVF. And I've seen it through some women here on social media that have shared their journey that are going through IVF. They've then gone through fertilization, had their microbiome checked, found out they had infection, got it treated, and then were able to have successful. When I was finishing out my last antibiotic wash yesterday, the doctor was like, I truly do believe you're going to be able to have mini babies. I was like, oh. He's like, we took care of everything that we saw that needed to be taken care of.
And yet here we are 3 years later, and she still doesn't have a bio kid. So for her to come on so confidently and be like, this is gonna work for me, this is what's, and also saying that IVF and IUI wouldn't have worked and how this was the proper route to go. Well, she's sharing all of this to her social media platform. She's influencing people to think this way, to second guess their doctors and their treatment plans, and that, it's not going to work. It's a type of fear mongering and also very clearly spreading misinformation because she still does not have a bio kit of her own. So it obviously didn't definitely, absolutely was gonna work and worked. And a lot of people are saying, how can you possibly say and believe that IVF or IUI, science-backed things wouldn't work without having tried them, right? And you might be asking yourself, why? Why hasn't she tried IUI or IVF or anything? Well, allegedly because religion and they're more traditional. So, science, factual science equals bad, and pseudoscience with absolutely no merit behind it equals, acceptable form of treatment for her infertility. Yeah. And like I said, the scariest part in all of this is that she's taking all these alternative routes, again, not backed by actual science, and promoting it as fact to her audience with all this confidence, to a very vulnerable population of women who are going through a really heavy, vulnerable struggle. And yes, it's always good to get a second opinion on things, especially if you're not quite sure, or, your doctor says this and it's treatment plan and it doesn't quite align with what you want. Yeah, of course, it's always okay to get a second opinion. And sometimes it's best to get a second opinion. But to tell people to basically ignore science-backed and research-backed methods and instead go the alternate route is an irresponsible use of a platform, in my honest opinion. Because not only is she talking about uterine flushes with this doctor in Greece, so you got to get to Greece first if you want this type of treatment. No big deal, right? But she also seems to spread misinformation like wildfires spread during a drought. And that's a big point of criticism that Adelaide does receive, is the spread of this misinformation. One big one was that blue light glasses and red light therapy will help with your egg quality. And now, there is some truth peppered into all of this, but the blue light glasses will not fix your infertility. Exposure to blue light after dark can mess with your melatonin production and ultimately lead to a poor night's sleep, which can mess with your hormone balances. I found this awesome excerpt from birthfit.com. One buzzword that's being tossed around quite a bit is blue light. Blue light is the portion of visible light spectrum with the shortest wavelength and the highest energy. It is found in sunlight, LED, and fluorescent lighting, and screens, such as phones, computers, tablets, TVs, etc. Does exposure to blue light directly cause infertility? Obviously, if the sun naturally contains blue light, this can't be the case. However, blue light exposure outside of daylight hours can invariably cause a cascade of events that can be detrimental to health and ultimately fertility. And as more comes out about sleep health and hormone balance and overall health, and we're learning more about what happens to our bodies and brains during a good night rest, well, there's no doubt that we're learning that all of this is interconnected. But the thing is that popping on a pair of blue light glasses isn't going to magically fix your fertility. And without providing that additional context and extra information, she risks giving a false sense of hope to her audience. Oh, I can just put on some blue light glasses and then that'll make my egg quality go up and then I'm gonna be good to go. That's not the case, because fixing those internal hormone imbalances and better sleep health and hygiene and upping your melatonin is so incredibly important, but popping on a pair of glasses isn't going to fix all of those problems. It's deeper than that. It's about sleep health and hygiene, a proper nighttime routine, turning off your phone, leaving it after dark, wearing blue light glasses throughout the day if you're on a screen a lot. And she's an influencer. You know that she stares at her phone screen up until the moment her eyes shut. She doesn't have any type of sleep hygiene. She's probably scrolling Reddit at 2 a.m. but those blue light goggles are on, so it's all good. No, it doesn't work that way. And that's not the only information, tips and tricks that she spread. She's also tried to shill fertility vitamins, all of them with affiliate links, of course. She's also spoken about neurofeedback on her platform. And now I'm not entirely clear as to whether or not she linked neurofeedback therapy to infertility or if she did it for her anxiety, whatever the case, but still something that's not super backed and studied yet. And she's claiming that all these things help or will help. And ultimately what this can do is it can lead her audience down a path that won't actually help them. Thinking that, oh, she said the thing, so she must have done the research, so I'm just going to try the thing. No. And why anyone would believe her and believe that any of this pseudoscience would work, given the fact that in 2026 she still does not have a biological child, is beyond me. But this is the internet, and people with a following, influencers with influence over people, have that kind of power to alter minds. And yes, ultimately, that's on the people who choose to believe her, who choose to not get a second opinion or go to their doctor or whatever. But I think there's something to be said about the level of responsibility that an influencer has when spreading this kind of information or misinformation, especially when it's not backed by any type of research or science. And that can just end up being dangerous or a waste of time, which Adelaide's platform ultimately proves because she's tried everything under the sun to get pregnant, except IVF and IUI, of course, because, well, Jesus says no to that, apparently. But uterine flushes with antibiotics and blue light goggles, those are a go in Jesus's eyes. It makes no sense to me, this kind of warped religious thinking that science is bad. Like, no, don't you think that God gave us scientists to do this research to help us with these things? Like, we're not talking about religion. I know, I realize that. But it grinds my gears.
You know what really grinds my gears?
That's what. And all of this brings us into the adoption era. And I want to be very clear up front. I am not coming at this with any superior knowledge. I know very little about adoption, the process of adoption, what it's like to be adopted. I'm not adopted, or have adopted people in your family or anything. I don't even think I know anyone who has been adopted, but I have learned over the years a lot about adoption through doing this kind of work, and because I love research and I love learning and growing my brain. And then coming and teaching you guys. But I've learned it through the years with people like Dr. D. Dozen, who did not only adoption, but foster to adopt, or Della vlogs, who bought a baby, much like Adelaide and her husband did twice now. But I can say with confidence that, man, this one really challenged me with a lot of the terms and was also really insightful reading from a lot of adoptees and adopters about how important trauma-informed adoption really is and how important it is to keep it child-centered, something that I don't think happened in this case. And I'll explain why. So first and foremost, we have her first baby. And mind you, she's been super cryptic about all of the ins and outs, the agencies and stuff. But her first baby was adopted through a Christian agency. And it seems like they used another person to connect them to the agency and stuff like that. It's a little unclear. But she went through that type of agency with their first son. And this is where the alarm bells start to sound in people's brains. Because much like Della vlogs, these types of organizations are essentially legal human trafficking. If you show up with a wad of cash, you can buy a baby and there you go, they're yours. Oftentimes, these are young mothers who are coerced into keeping their baby because Jesus, again, but are also then coerced and kind of forced and led into giving their baby up for adoption, oftentimes because they're young or unprepared or whatever the background story might be. And here you go. You have rich white influencers who are able to buy a human. It's It's really creepy. And I saw one person, I'm never going to be able to find this comment. It's deep in the depths of research and I don't think I screenshotted it. But I saw one person say how weird Christian adoption agencies really are, because if you think about it and you think about how oftentimes these are young girls who are going through this, well, a lot of people are arguing like, why is the church not supporting this mother into motherhood? But I just thought of this now. If this baby was conceived at 16, 17 out of wedlock, well, obviously the church isn't going to support that because, again, we always circle back to Jesus, right? Babies are not supposed to be born out of wedlock. So it would make sense that a lot of these agencies would do this kind of secretively and keep it all hush-hush because it's a young girl who did something big bad, and here you go, we're getting rid of the problem. We're solving the problem for you. I wonder where the money goes. Seriously, where does the money go when you go through a Christian agency? Does it go back into the church, therefore the preacher's or pastor or whatever's pocket? Or does some of it go to the mom? Like anyway. And where it gets really sketchy with these types of agencies is because, like I said, if you are a rich, wealthy white person, you can skip the line and adopt a newborn baby, something that's really rare, especially when talking about adoption within the country. That is so rare. And now these two have adopted 2 newborn babies, both who were drop cases, which I will define here in a second, and have in under a year. And if that doesn't raise alarm bells in people's brains, I don't know what will, because that is so incredibly sketchy. It is obvious that they went and bought a child twice in a year's time. And not only do you get to skip the line, but you get to kind of be picky choosy about what kind of baby you want. If you want a boy or a girl or a newborn or a toddler or a person of color or a white person, you get to do that. Like what Della Vlogs did, buying a white child who looks like them, it's so sketchy. It is so sus and makes me viscerally uncomfortable. But drop case. Both of Adelaide's boys were apparently drop cases, and I had no idea what that meant until doing research for this. A drop case, also known as a stork drop adoption, is when a birth mother chooses adoption when the baby is born or right before they're born, meaning that the birth mother has chosen adoption but hasn't made any type of adoption plan yet. So they weren't planning on giving up their baby, and now they go to have the baby and they give it up. To me, that is so sketchy because on so many levels. Because if you think about the transition from maiden to mother and everything that comes with that, plus the forethought, the planning and stuff like that, having a mother make a decision to give her baby up when she has crazy hormones coursing through her veins is wild. Absolutely wild to me. And it happens so quick that before she's able to come down from the cascade of hormones that are coursing through her body, her baby's already gone, right? And now it's possible that they got there and just like weren't prepared or unplanned and stuff and decided didn't want the baby. I don't know. But for some reason, a drop case is so sketchy to me. That is weird. That there's no plan in place, that it's just like this mom is pregnant. She's been pregnant for 9 months, wasn't planning on giving up her baby, and now all of a sudden is giving up her baby at birth. I don't know. I think it's really weird. And now this family has 2 of them. And I believe Adelaide had said that she's not going to work through a Christian agency the second time around, yet shilled a code for $2 off your very own human. You literally can't make this stuff up. A discount code for a human being. That is insane, ridiculous. $200 off to adopt a human, and also she gets a little bit of commission from this? What? And sure, there are costs to adoption. We can all realize that. There's legal fees, sometimes there's medical costs and stuff like that leading up to the birth, especially in America. The problem is that wealthy people can go and be like, here's 50K, skip the lines, and buy a baby. That's the problem. It's literally human trafficking, but for some reason, legal. And the drop case, in my mind, makes it so much more sketchy. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And now she has 2 drop case newborn babies in her arms in under a year, whilst there's certain parents who have been waiting for 2-3 years who are saying like, you're so lucky you got to adopt 2 and you have 2 under 2 and I've been waiting and I'm waiting for my name to get called. I don't know. It's all really suspicious in my humble little old opinion. Something isn't adding up and it's weird. It's weird. But ultimately, there's no way that these adoptions were done ethically. There's no way that these adoptions were child-centered or trauma-focused because of how quick they happened, how easily it seemingly happened for her, and how confident she is that she's just going to get chosen over and over again to adopt more babies because they're aiming for 4 or 5. Which is really funny because I remember seeing Adelaide for the first time a couple months ago when she posted this picture of her 1 adopted kid and her 7 other AI generated children. And I was like, what? What? No way. There's no way. You are literally insane. Oh my God. And one thing that I did notice while doing this research is that Adelaide will say things that people want to hear. She's really good at saying the thing. Like, for example, one of her captions said, "It's not lost on us that a parent's worst day was our best day." Yet her actions and behaviors directly contrast those things that she says that people want to hear. So she knows what to say to get people on her side, but the things that she posts and her giddiness of getting those calls and stuff like that with zero acknowledgement of the trauma that this baby and that mother are going through is really what puts a poor taste in people's mouth. It's where the disconnect is because you can tell that she's just saying the words, but her actions are very clearly the opposite. But I seriously cannot get over the $200 discount code that she's shilling to her very vulnerable audience, full likely of women who suffer from infertility and or miscarriages and or are in the same boat as her, and that she makes a profit, she makes commission off of trafficking children. I don't know what kind of dystopian hellscape we're living in, but I don't like it. I would like to get off the ride now. I don't like this earth ride. I'm ready to debark, please. Yes. Okay, I'm back. I had to pause, talk to my kid. Because our air fryer broke yesterday. I was making dinner and then it just died. Just spontaneously died. And I'm really sad. And my children are really sad because it was the way that they could make little quick meals for themselves, you know? So I needed to educate my teenager on how to cook fries in the oven because we don't have an air fryer anymore. Not okay, guys. I'm gonna not be able to live without my air fryer. It's literally my favorite appliance. Not even gonna lie. So we were talking about the dystopian hellscape that we're living in, being able to get a discount code on buying a human being and also make commission on a discount code to buy a human being. That's cool. That's cool. I'm glad this is where we're at in life right now. But now we have not only 1, but 2 little boys who are being plastered all over social media, who are having every single intimate, private moment blasted on the internet to live on forever since literal birth. Sharing their allergies, their medical struggles, their blowouts, their potty routines. She even shared this video where she's rubbing lotion on his chunky thighs, which has since been deleted, by the way. But still, that is the level of exploitation that we're seeing from these adopted children who not only can't consent to it. Children cannot consent to being posted to social media, but their entire background and story is being shared on social media, right? And she tries to frame it. I found this post. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up actually. Yes? You're good, you're good. I'm looking for something.
Can I just put them like on this?
Yeah, I'd spray it with a little bit of oil first, just to make sure that it's on top of the stove.
The little flask thing?
What?
Like an actual like spray.
No. The little glass thing that's
yeah,
on this. Yeah, on. I thought you said flask, and I was like, no, not a flask. No, it's a spray bottle. But yeah. So here's Adelaide's clapback at using her kids for content. Did G's birth mother know the baby would be used for content? I saw a post saying no. Did that post come from me? Oh no? Then it's not true. Please stop believing things people say about content creators that they literally don't know. She knows what I do for a living. It was part of our book. She and all birth moms read through. Also used for content, LOL. I share my life and have since 2018. He's a part of my life. Whether biological or adopted, I plan to share my children. Cool. So you plan to strip your children of all autonomy, privacy, image development that they could possibly create based off of what you post. Okay, cool. I know not everyone agrees with that, and that's okay. You don't need to waste your energy on them. Simply don't follow them. Obsessive hater brains should be studied. It's fascinating. I saw that and I was like, there's no way. There's no way. You know what should be studied? Mommy vloggers who exploit their children on social media for fame and attention and to line their own greedy pockets and then leave their children to grow up with absolutely nothing, even though they were the reason for their entire paycheck. That's what should be studied and will be studied one day, I'm sure, once family vlogging comes crashing down. And I'm excited for that moment. So not only is she justifying sharing her children, but what she's sharing is just literally everything. So she shared her older son's now journey with a helmet because he had a flat head, because he had torticollis, which she decided to blame on the birth mom and throw shade at her apparently. Or the fact that he has eczema and all of the different allergies that he might have and the testing and the stuff, all the way to wanting to heal his gut biome at 14 months old.
Children with eczema. Infertility has taught me anything. It's we're going to fight. We're going to keep trying all the things. And yeah, maybe we will get to a point where we do Dupixent. And I'm not against Dupixent. I'm not at all. And maybe that is something George will have to be on. And that's okay. I just feel like he's still so young. I want to try a few more avenues before we get there. And I know some people are going to agree with that. Some people are not going to agree with that. But I just feel like I have to follow my motherly gut feeling right now that like what we've been told isn't it. And there's more to this. So yeah, we're going to do this whole protocol with him. It seems fairly simple. It's painless for him. There are no side effects. We're going to do this whole protocol with him. It's like 8 weeks to really help heal his gut and his body from the inside out. We get a little hesitant even like doing this protocol because I did a million protocols. And yeah, although it worked for some, it never worked for me. I mean, I shouldn't say it never worked because I did feel better and get healthier. And, you know, we saw my body finally ovulating and all of this, but like, you know, I never ended up actually getting pregnant through those different things. But then I should clarify, we're not hesitant to do this protocol on him for like any side effects or like anything that's not safe because it's very safe. There are no side effects. We're hesitant because we're like, is this just going to be a waste of money? Is this another rabbit hole? That's not it. And the only way to know that is by trying. You know, we saw that through my infertility journey. The only way of knowing is trying. So we're going to try. And if we start to see results, I'm happy to share how it goes. You know, I had so many conversations with y'all who did this protocol with your child and it worked miracles. So we're going to try. We're going to see. And if anything, at least we know we can say we try. And then maybe we'll be back going to see a different doctor or doing Dupixent, or I don't know. Just want to try and give this baby relief in the safest way as possible. So that's what we're going to do.
A 14-month-old does not need to heal his gut. What are you feeding him that he would possibly have to heal from? He just started eating food. She's literally using this tiny baby, toddler, as a science experiment. And it's unhinged. I don't know if he has a pediatrician who follows him who's giving her these recommendations, but it's not okay. And she's posting it all to social media for people to consume as entertainment. This child's medical journey, his struggles with his health are being monetized and exploited online on his mother's platform. We will see what comes with her grifting on now 2 under 2, which is great. 2 babies that she bought under 2 years old under her care, and the fact that she's not a super involved mom and is constantly like leaving them to go for self-care or leaving them to go on a trip or whatever the case may be. It is a very interesting look into this person's platform so far. And yeah, I'm sure there is a lot that I missed because there's so much misinformation, disinformation that's been shilled on her platform. She's been going at it for so long, and it's just really a disgusting display of behavior. She is exploiting these children to no end and exploiting adoption, because it hit big in the algorithm. And I believe they're still trying to conceive, which I'm pretty sure is something you're not even supposed to do when you have little adopted babies. You're not supposed to have bio kids close in age. That is one thing that Myka Stauffer, the person who started this conversation about how toxic and horrible family vloggers are, that's something that she did. She adopted a son that was the same age as one of her bio children, and look how that ended up. So it's really interesting to see people continue to grift and use children for content now in 2026. And it's really sad to see because these boys are having their entire lives plastered all over the internet. They're having backhanded shade thrown at their bio parents, and it's just all really messy and really yucky. And it'll be really interesting to see in 18 years time how the tides have turned for these parents. And it's wild to think that anyone is going to be different than how the Frankie children turned out. I'm not talking about the abuse that happened. I'm talking about the exploitation that led them to literally hating being online and being against it. We are going to have this huge wave of children in the next 10 years come out and say it. And yeah, sure, some will be okay with it. Some who were successful, likely Everly LeBrant, will be a generational child exploiter and exploit her own children one day because of how successful she is and how successful her mom and parents were, right? We will have some kids who say, no, it's not that big of a deal. My life was great. My blah, 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 blah. But for the most part, I think we're going to see a huge number of children excommunicating their families when they get old enough. But that's what I have for today's video. Please let me know down in the comments your thoughts on all this. Did you know Adelaide before this? Wild, absolutely unhinged displays of behavior and misinformation and adoption and all the things. It's so exploitative and it's gross. But you aren't gross. And thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe before you head out. Also, truly appreciate that. And I hope you guys are having an amazing, fantastic, beautiful day wherever you are in the world. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.